Hi, I'm Sayona, and I'm excited to keep this conversation going with you here at Starting Point, and we're glad that you're joining us today. We live in a world that rewards performance. Just think about it. If you perform well, you end up doing well in life. That's kind of the assumption we operate under. If you perform well in grade school and get good grades there, you'll continue to be at the top of your class. If you perform well there, you'll get into a good college. If you perform well in college, you'll nail that awesome job. If you perform well in the job, you get the promotion, and on it goes. You think if you perform well in one area, that somehow the world will work it out, that you will do well in it or succeed. And that's kind of ingrained in us. And so that assumption often carries over into our religious mindset or the way we view God. And we often think that religion or faith or the church is about performing, doing certain things, religious things, spiritual things, in order to be in good standing with God, or in order to be a good church person, or whatever it is that you're considering. And oftentimes we then will undergo this behavior modification, especially when it comes to church and religion and faith, where we modify our behaviors to fit whatever it is that standard is that we think God is judging us on, or others are judging us on, so that we can be considered good and faithful and good Christians, or whatever that is. And so that's the world we live in. But of course, there are some exceptions to this rule of performance and reward for good performance. And this comes in little things like a parent letting a child off the hook, a teacher letting a student who did really poorly on a paper rewrite the paper and give them a passing grade on it, a police officer who doesn't give a ticket, and so on and so forth. There are exceptions. It's when we deserve something and somebody gives us an incredible opportunity or gift that we didn't deserve, and that relief comes. I'm wondering if you've ever had an experience or a time where you've been let off the hook. And I know I'm thinking of many times in my life where I've received grace from others. And in the Christian worldview or mindset, this big idea is described as grace. And a way we can define it is by saying grace is unmerited favor. So it means that you've done nothing to deserve the goodness and love and grace of God, that there's nothing that you have to keep on doing to deserve it or to get it. And it's not based on the performance of the receiver, but on the works or the goodness of the bestower of that grace. And so that's grace when it comes to Christianity. And I wonder if it's that God actually has something for you and wants something for you instead of wanting something from you. And so what he wants for you is his favor, his goodness, that grace, instead of demanding a performance from you. So it's this unmerited, this free gift of God's favor and love for you. And so the question for you today is, by what standard will you measure your standing with God, or where you stand with God? How are you judged by God? How are you in right standing with God? How you perform religiously? Do you go to church? Do you tithe? Do you dress a certain way? Do you look a certain way? Do you say all the right things? Or is it based off of what God has done for you and nothing that you have done, nothing that you have earned or tried to muster up or change, behavior modification model? So if you do look in the Bible, if you think about that standard by which God might judge, if you think that that is the way your behavior and performance, and you're like, well, the Bible says it. It actually doesn't. If you look back to the 10 Commandments, God establishes his relationship before he establishes those rules. And in the New Testament, there's this awesome verse that just says the essential summary of the whole New Testament, all of what Jesus did. It says, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, not by works, but it is a gift from God." So our salvation is by grace. And that's what the Bible says. How would you react if God saw you not through the filter of your performance, but through the filter of his grace and love, and for you specifically? And how would you respond if you knew that you had nothing to earn from God? You didn't have to earn God's love, but his love was freely showered upon you by grace. And If that is true, then you have a whole world of faith and exploring God ahead of you, and that is exciting, and you don't have to worry about that performance-based model anymore with God. So take these questions and take these thoughts with you in conversation. Head over to our website, Starting Point website, if you haven't connected with a group yet, and I hope that you keep on thinking about God's grace, His grace for you, and that you find a group of people to start and keep this conversation going about grace with.